Have you ever tried something new in real estate? Maybe it's buying your first rental or learning creative finance, maybe flipping a house or wholesaling. And you get to the point of the process that you're just like, wait, why is this so hard? Like, you've done the research, you've made the plan, maybe you've even invested in a course or have a mentor or even a one-on-one coach. But you get to this point of this like messy middle where the doubt, the confusion, the like unexpected stuff and just all the things that you have to deal with comes up. And so the thing that I have learned is that nothing, like no amount of preparation, no course, no coach, can actually like remove that struggle. Because the struggle is where the process of learning happens and is where the process of changing happens. But before I continue, hi, I'm Sabrina and I'm failing forward in real estate to build a more durable life. And I've tried a few things in real estate over the years, different strategies, some things on my own, some with courses, some with coaches. And no matter what, there's always this time where you kind of like hit this wall. And so my career is in research and education. And so in this video, I want to go back to my roots and have a bit of a whiteboard moment where we step through some models of learning and change so that we can take these difficult experiences and transform them into learning lessons. Okay, so the first model we're going to talk about is the learning pit. And this was developed by educator James Nottingham and was primarily for K-12, but has also been applied to adult education. And so what he says is that this is what happens when we are learning something new. So first we start with, that new thing. So we've got something, some kind of learning, right? And so we are starting the process here with the learning. But as we start to get introduced to this, it will get hard. He says that we will actually get worse before we get better. And as we're kind of like going through that experience of getting worse and worse and worse, we end up in the learning pit. And so that is why the act of learning just feels so hard, because he's saying that in order to learn something, we must get worse before we get better. And if we do make it out of the pit, then we can ultimately experience what Nottingham calls success. Okay, and so on his website, he gives this example of a kid who is trying to learn to kick a soccer ball with his left foot. So the idea is like, well, yeah, like being able to kick with both feet makes you a better player, so that's cool. And so he starts to try to learn this. But he's really, really bad, right? So, as he's like practicing and training and learning and things like that with his left foot, he's really bad. He's not very good at it. And he goes from, this very kind of simple thing to learn into the learning pit. He's worse and worse. He gets frustrated. He tries and tries. He doesn't think that he's actually going to be able to get good. But by not staying in the pit, by keeping at it, he's ultimately able to get a little bit better and a little bit better, learns new strategies, and ultimately is successful. And he gets to the point where he's almost as good at kicking with his left foot as he is with his right foot, which overall makes him a better soccer player, i.e. he's reached success. Okay? And so the really important thing about this model is that in order to learn something, according to this learning pit model, getting worse before you get better is a requirement. So there is no learning bridge that just takes you from, cool, to successful. No. You must go through the learning pit to be able to get to the other side to reach success. Okay, so, well, this model was really developed for, like children, right? Like K-12 education applied to like adult learners. But let's now move to a model that's really common in business circles, which refers to this like emotional cycle of change. Shocker, it's pretty much the same model. Okay. So the emotions of change, or emotional cycle of change, was developed by Kelly and Connor. And they really focus on the emotions that we feel as we go through change. Again, this was about business, so specifically like leaders and organizations. But so basically they just highlighted this idea that as you go through change, like emotions come up. And dealing with those emotions is a part of the change process. So if you've listened to any of like Alex Hormozy's work, you've heard this model before. But where we start is this idea of uninformed optimism. So when you are beginning to change or learn something, you have uninformed optimism. Like you don't know what you're exactly doing yet, right? Like this might be the time where you've watched the video on YouTube, maybe you've you got the course, like you are excited about the thing. It seems so possible, right? But then you actually start making steps. And this is where you start to realize, oh, this isn't as simple as I thought. Oh, that part is more complex. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Or you tried something and it backfired and it's like, wait a minute, what? I thought this was what I was supposed to do. All of that, as you start getting into it and doing the things, gives you more information. And so what happens is you enter a phase of informed pessimism. And so you go from uninformed optimism, where you didn't know what you were doing, but were really excited, to starting to get some information and realize, whoa, this is harder than I thought, leading to informed pessimism. And where you kind of get to from that point is what is commonly referred to in like business education, business consulting kind of spaces as the valley of despair. So similar to the learning pit, the valley of despair, this is the emotion that you're feeling. As you're trying to change, it's just like, this is impossible. Like, how am I going to navigate through this? I don't know. Like, there's too many moving parts. There's so many things that I didn't know, that I didn't understand. And so you feel this valley of despair. But if you are not overtaken by this feeling of despair while you're in the learning pit, because again, do you see how these things really line up? If you don't get overtaken by that emotion, that is how you start to use the strategies from Nottingham's model of like, okay, where do I need to focus? Do I need to experiment with different strategies? Who can I reach out to kind of navigate my way through this? And again, as you start to gain more information, either through more reps or through another person or resources, then you start to get more information about the solution, which leads you to informed optimism. And so with informed optimism, now again, you're gaining more information, but not, just about the things that can go wrong. You're gaining information about possible solutions. But that's different from in the beginning when you ain't know nothing about nothing and you are uninformed in your optimism. Now you are informed in your optimism as you move to the last stage of the change model, which is also success. And so I hope it's really clear by putting these models together that the act of learning and the emotions you experience as you go through change are really one and the same. So as you learn a new strategy, a new approach, as you take on something else in real estate, you're going to be learning something new. You are going to be changing as you go through the process, and there are emotions that come with that change. But like I said, the thing to really remember here is that this process is required. Like, this is required work, right? You cannot, there is no bridge, there is no shortcut. You must go through the pit, through the valley of despair to get to the other side of success, however it is that you've defined it. But one thing that I do want to also add, as I was doing the research on these models, so this valley of despair concept really kind of came about from other like business consultant-y kind of people adapting this model. What the actual originators of the change model, Kelly and Connor, what they called this they referred to this section as hopeful realism. And so what I think is that as we're trying to learn new things in real estate and try new tactics and level up and things like that, is that we know that we're going to go through this process. But here is really about the extent to which we can move from this feeling of despair to this feeling of hopeful realism, right? Because like, we know that what we're trying to do is possible. We know it's possible to have a rental portfolio, to flip a house, to wholesale, to do a creative deal, to buy property. Like, millions of other people have done it. And so it really becomes this idea of the mindset shift, right? Like, how long are you going to stay in this despair until that transforms into this hopeful realism? Like, I know that this is possible. I just need to figure it out. And now I'm going to go through like trying different strategies, making sure that I'm focused, reaching out to others. And this is really where I think any kind of course or coaching program comes in, right? All a coach can do is help you to go from this valley of despair to this hopeful realism through advice, experience, suggestions, reviews. That's it. But actually removing this struggle, nah, that's not possible. Again, there are no bridges. Now, perhaps you can shorten the amount of time that you feel that you are in the valley of despair, and that you feel that you're in the valley of despair, and that you can transition into this hopeful realism. I think that is really the key. Like, how do I shorten the time that I spend here so that I can learn the strategy, get the things, feel that I have this hopeful realism, gain my informed optimism, and get to the success that I'm after? You know, until you try that next new thing and you got to learn stuff all over again. So I really do hope that this helps, that you recognize that as you do things in real estate, you are learning. You must be. And you are changing. You're changing yourself as a person. You're changing how you think about money and wealth and finances and perhaps life and work in general. And so you are going to deal with a whole host of emotions. Lots of them being negative. But the point here is to recognize that all of this stuff feels hard because it is. And it's hard because we're struggling. And we're struggling because we're learning and changing. And that requires going through the pit, going through the valley of despair, so that we can take all this cool stuff that we are learning and know is possible and actually transform it into the success that we are looking for. So I hope that this helps, and I will see you on the next one.